in groups of 3, 3 and 4. And I wonder if I can move you just a little bit so that we don't have people who are from the same country. Yes. So maybe Jessica, could you talk with Luca and Lourdes? So Luca and Lourdes, if you come over here, and Yusra, if you can talk with Simon and Juanma. No, that doesn't quite work. And then Inma, if you come over here. That's great. Yes, if you come over here to maybe change places with...
So I go there?
Yes, Lourdes, if you come over here with Luca.
I see.
And Yusra with Juanma, and maybe Jonghyun, if you could go over and join them as well. And then Inma, if you could come up here.
11, yes. So if you could come and sit over here, bring a chair.
Like just then when I didn't quite get it right, because I think it's part of the...
How often do you use different student groupings in a lesson?
It depends on the students, it depends on the activity. In this case, I wanted to put them into, I wanted to make new groups because of the activity, but often I might just do pair work, or but I use pair work more than group work. Definitely.
And why do you use pair work? Well, and group work, but pair work especially.
The great thing about pair work is that everyone is either talking or listening. In group work, somebody, you might, if you had a group of 4, 2 people might be talking for most of the 3 or 4 minutes, and one person might be drifting off into a daydream.
In your clip, you put particular students with particular students. Why did you do that? Because
the activity I was doing was related to a particular cultural experience based on the students' country of origin, or I wanted them to share their own experience with students from other countries, so I needed them to be in groups, or I needed them to exchange ideas with people not from their own country.
Do you do that a lot of the time, actually choosing specific students?
It depends on the group, and it depends on if a group is working fine, I will probably leave them be. But if I feel that one student is maybe not getting so much of a chance to talk, or 2 people don't work well together, I would then shift it around. It depends on the circumstances, I would say.
But it's largely because of the individual student?
Yes, and I think one responds to a dynamic. If the class is feeling a bit flat, you might pep it up by putting them in different groups.
Okay, you've got 1 more minute, guys. That's really good.
And this is walked, because it's no voice. Voice, moved.
In the second sentence, and then new information comes at the end again. And if you organise the information like this, it's clearer. It's just easier to read the text.
Need to pass one on to Pimper there. 2 there. Okay.
It's all ready to go.
Beth Titchener.
Fantastic.
My name is Beth Titchener. I'm 15 years old and I'm people at St. School.
Okay. Carry on. See what you can do. 5 groups.
What's your reaction to the different clips you've seen of all these different seating arrangements?
It was really interesting to see sort of the same classrooms being used in different ways by the different teachers, using the different seating arrangements and different activities.
In your lesson, you had the students sitting at 2 separate tables. Is there any special reason you did that?
I wanted to make them feel more comfortable and put them at their ease, and I thought if they're all seated around one large table, then sort of certain members of the group might have dominated the feedback sessions. And also, even though they're a proficiency group, there are sort of varying levels within the group, and a couple of them were new to the class that week. So really it was just to make them feel more comfortable.
Do you use that kind of arrangement? Students divided, for example, into two groups around two separate tables. Do you use that arrangement quite often?
It's an arrangement that I prefer because I think it's easier to monitor students and to help them reformulate their ideas or their writing in a more discreet way that's not in front of all of their peers. And also I think for higher levels certainly it encourages learner autonomy.
Because?
Because I think if the students are in a horseshoe shape and the more dominant students will speak, whereas they're focusing on the teacher and reliant on the teacher and waiting for prompts from the teacher, whereas I think it does encourage them to be more independent.
Do you ever teach to the whole class, or do you always put students in groups or pairs?
No, quite often I teach to the whole class, particularly if it's a grammar presentation or something using the OHP. But I actually prefer not sort of the traditional sort of teacher at the front of the class and students waiting on the teacher for prompts. I prefer for them to mingle amongst themselves or talk amongst themselves.
So if you're teaching the whole class, do you ever then sort of change the class? Do you ever move the furniture around in a class so you go from, say, groups to whole class or vice versa?
Yeah, quite often if we're switching from a grammar presentation to a practice exercise, or if I've set up a role play and then they can move and do that.
Poetry.
Poetry. Do you know this word, poetry? Poetry is when it's like a song, but there's no music. And all the lines, they often rhyme. They have the same sound at the end. Okay? We've got some poetry here. So you've got some poems by T.S. Eliot. And it looks a little bit like this. Uh-huh. Okay. Great. Okay, last one.
Frying pan. What do we use a frying pan for? Frying something, for example. Potatoes. You could slice up potatoes, put them in, fry them. It's normally quite large and flat, and you cook with it on the hob. If you want to fry an egg, for example, you would use a frying pan. Saucepan. Saucepan, yeah. Saucepan is a small pot that you would use on the hob to make a sauce in fact, but you can use it for other things. Okay, so if you imagine this is a frying pan, quite shallow and large, a saucepan is quite, well, it's bigger than that. It's more that shape, okay? And then a larger one we would call, I would call that a pot, a bigger pot, yeah. Stir. Stir is when you turn something with a spoon. If you put sugar in your coffee, you stir your coffee. What else?
Scramble.
Scramble. What do we scramble? It means to mix it up. So almost always what we scramble is eggs. If we're cooking eggs, sometimes we mix them up in the pan and you scramble them. Slice is when you cut like this. This is quite technical, so watch. Okay, as opposed to chop, which is this. Slice, chop. There was another. Yes, what else is there that you're not sure of?
Grate.
Beat. Beat and grate. Okay. We beat eggs, which means we hit them like that as we're stirring.
Grate.
Grate, yes. What do we normally grate? cheese. We grate cheese. And we grate cheese so that we can sprinkle it on pasta or pizza. So we make very small slices of cheese by grating it. What's the difference between bitter and sour?
Sour has a best taste, a bad taste, a bad.
A lemon is sour. Tastes quite nice.
Bitter.
Coffee is a little bit bitter. Tastes quite nice. If you eat something sour, it makes you do this. Like vinegar or lemons.
Okay.
If you eat something bitter, you do that. So if your coffee is too strong, it's too bitter.
And number 7, the future of federal funding is up in the air. What does that phrase mean, up in the air?
Still a dream or where?
Say again.
Like still a dream is not real.
Yes, so we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah? So can you think of one word that says that? The future is...
Unpredictable?
Critical. We're not sure what's going to happen. What's a more formal word than for sure?
Unsure.
More formal rather than the opposite. I'm sure, I'm...
Definite?
Well,
Absolutely.
Lovely. And the opposite? That's it. Yeah, so the future is uncertain. Uncertain.
Has anybody, Idmar, have you got anything for it seems? Anything?
It looks.
It looks, maybe you could say something, it appears, maybe it looks as if, or it looks like, would be great. It's likely that, yes, so it seems, that's great. And what's the adjective for appears? Adverb apparently would be great as well. No, that's lovely. That was where I was trying to get to. Apparently and apparent, so you could say apparently instead of it seems that. Increasing, rising, getting bigger, getting larger would be lovely. Growing would also be lovely. Going up. Change, yeah, definitely. Changing.
To the other people
And seeing
in
other
class.
people is reassuring
Don't
as well.
show it to anybody,
That's pretty
just
similar
read
to what
it.
I do.
Okay, listen to each other.
What's your reaction to the clips we've just been watching about vocabulary teaching?
I think it's interesting to see the variety of ways in which we all teach vocabulary, and I never realised that I use that many different ways myself.
There's a contrast between some of the techniques you use where you're actually teaching vocabulary and some of the other clips where teachers are trying to get the vocabulary from the students. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it's important to elicit vocabulary sometimes, and what's important is making a memorable experience when that word is learned. So if you elicit it and somebody gets it, then they're going to remember getting that. They're going to feel a bit chuffed and they're going to think, oh, I guessed that word and I didn't really know it, so I feel good about it. Or even, how did he get that word? And the person next to him might remember that.
And so the fact that it's memorable actually helps students to understand or remember or feel good about
I think it gives them reference points if they have memorable images or feelings while this is all happening. There's words that they won't remember because they won't need to remember or won't want to remember, but there'll be events that happen in the classroom with words that they want to know, and they can attach them to those events.
In your clip, we watched you using a number of different techniques to present various vocabulary items. How do you decide which one to use?
It's quite a spontaneous decision. It's not something planned. Obviously, certain words lend themselves to mime, such as beating an egg. And for example, frying pan doesn't particularly lend itself to a mime because that could be anything, so I'll pick up a pen and draw it. I might try and mime it first because I don't have a pen in my hand, but obviously while I'm doing that I'm thinking they're not seeing a frying pan, so I'll try and draw it on the board. I'm not a great artist, but you can roughly do the outline.
A lot of this then is just reacting to what's happening at the moment it's happening. That's what teachers do.
Yeah, absolutely, and reacting to what you're doing as well, reacting to the information that you know you're giving or not giving.
We saw you do drawing and miming, and you used facial expressions, and you used various explanation techniques. Is any of those your favourite, or do you like doing them all?
It's just what happens, really. I quite like making noises as well. I don't know how successful it is, but the beating of an egg, for example, it's natural for me just to go clock, 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 just to add it to the action of that. It's nice to be able to perform a little bit and do a little mime and a noise and things like that, if it's appropriate for the word.
Excellent, well done. Okay, I'm going to stop there and we're going to move on to do a bit of reading ourselves. Do you recognise this person here?
Yes.
Do you? Who is it? J.K. Rowling, that's right, good. Okay, let's rub this off the board. Let's put her up on the board here. Okay, we're going to do some reading in a minute about J.K. Rowling, okay? Do you know much about her? What do you know about her?
She's the author of Harry Potter.
Okay, good. Okay, this side is going to be things I know about J.K. Rowling. Okay, good, well done. Do you know anything else about her?
A child or children?
Okay, she has a child or some children. Okay.
I think she's a teacher.
Okay. She's a teacher. Do you know that, or you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay, let's have a second column, and let's put this one, things we want to know,
I think.
or we're not sure about. Okay, she's a teacher. Good. Yeah? Anything else that you know about her? One more question that we'd like to know about her. Has she died? Or is she alive? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Is she still alive? It's a perfect question to ask. That's fine. Okay. Now, what we've got here is the reading that I'm going to give you. It's an article about her, and the article is called A Suitcase of Stories. What do you think the article's going to be about, then? What's a suitcase? You should know, Michal. What's a suitcase?
A suitcase is luggage.
Yes, it's an item of luggage, isn't it? So when you go on holiday, you take your clothes in a suitcase. Okay, so what do you think it means, a suitcase of stories? Yeah, David?
About her life.
About her life?
Yes.
So all her stories are in a suitcase?
Yes.
About her life?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Any more suggestions?
I think she talk about all the stories that she has wrote.
Okay, and maybe she keeps them in her suitcase. All her stories that she's written, she keeps in her suitcase. They're all very good suggestions. What I would like you to do is spend 3 minutes reading the article and tell me what the title means. So what does it mean? Does it mean that it's a summary of her life? Does she keep all the stories she's written in one suitcase? What does the title mean? Don't use your dictionaries. It's just quick reading through to get the general idea. You don't need to understand detail at this stage, okay? So what are you going to read for? Which question do you need to answer?
What does the title mean?
What does the title mean? Well done, Keiko. All right? Okay. 3 minutes. Okay, and stop. Any ideas? Martina?
Joan had been in Portugal
Yeah.
and she had that suitcase of fantastic stories about Harry Potter.
When she came back from Portugal. That's right, so she must have written the stories about Harry Potter in Portugal. Okay, and then when she came home, she brought them back in her suitcase. Okay, simple, well done. You were nearly there. What I would like you to do now is just quickly read through it again with your partner and discuss the points on the board. Are these right? Does it mention these points in the text? And can they answer our questions? Can the